There is a mystery unfolding in outer space as we speak.
3i Atlas is weird. It looks weird, it moves weird, it's made of weird stuff. And for all of the time that we've spent studying this object,
let's begin with some recent images of 3i Atlas that were captured by astrophotographers in the remote desert of Namibia on the southern tip of Africa.
During this time, they could have pointed their cameras at anything, but they chose to locate 3i Atlas in their viewfinder, and what they saw was shocking.
The object was glowing bright green in the night sky.
Now, based on what we know about 3i Atlas, it should not be turning green, or at least there is no natural explanation right now for it to be green. The prevailing theory among scientists is that 3i Atlas is an interstellar comet. It has a big, bright, fuzzy halo.
but this comet is also different, because this one came from a totally different star system in some far-off place in the galaxy. For example, it's not actually unusual for a comet to turn green. And because this is pretty normal, we know a lot about the chemical process that creates the green color.
It happens when carbon molecules in the coma are exposed to ultraviolet radiation from the sun. Specifically, this happens to diatomic carbon, or C2.
So if 3i Atlas were a normal comet, it would have a lot of these carbon structures around its surface, and it would turn green in the sunlight. So if 3i Atlas were a normal comet, it would have a lot of these carbon structures around its surface, and it would turn green in the sunlight. And yet, it is clearly glowing green. So why is that happening? We don't know. Aliens? Yeah, maybe they just like green lights.
Now, we also know that the coma surrounding 3i Atlas is filled with CO2, which is carbon bonded to oxygen atoms.
And the presence of that much CO2 alone is also pretty strange, because it vastly outweighs the amount of...
Except that's not the only weird thing in the coma of 3i Atlas, because it's also full of metal, particularly nickel.
A lot of comets have metal in their composition, and often that metal will end up evaporating out into the coma. But this only ever happens when
3i Atlas is not close to the Sun, and the presence of nickel was first detected when it was still out in between Mars and Jupiter.
In which case, rocket engines are typically made from metal alloys that are high in nickel content. And when you burn... Of course, this probably isn't aliens. But there's also something weird happening with the way that 3i Atlas is moving through the solar system. Probably unrelated to rocket engines that may or may not exist.
Since the object was first spotted in early May up until right now in October, it has not sped up, slowed down, or changed direction by any meaningful amount.
Bulging. You see comets heat up as they approach the sun, which causes them to melt, or technically to sublimate, which is what...
So a typical comet will change velocity and direction depending on what side is being exposed to the sun.
As we've seen, 3i Atlas has been doing a lot of sublimating already, including a mini tail that formed in the direction of the sun. Let's compare that with 2S Borisov, the most normal of the interstellar trio. It was measured to fluctuate over 100 kilometers.
Now, one potential explanation would be that Atlas is bigger and therefore harder to move. Makes sense. But we can bring in another point of comparison. This is Hale-Bopp. It's one of the biggest comets we've ever discovered in our solar system, at least as big as 3i Atlas, if not much bigger.
It's holding such an unusually steady course that you could almost say it's intentional, as if it's being guided through the solar system. Right now, we expect that 3i Atlas will end up being on the opposite side of the sun from the Earth as it passes through the inner solar system. Here's a crazy theory for you that might actually hold some water.
Have you ever heard of the wow signal?
It was discovered in 1977 by astronomers at Ohio State University.
And on this one day, it found something so weird that the person reading the data just wrote the word.
What shocked them so much was this incredibly powerful, narrowband radio signal that lasted for 72 seconds.
We know that it didn't come from any of our technology. It didn't come from the sun or any planet in our solar system.
We only know that it came from the general direction of the constellation Sagittarius. Now, the first thing that stands out about the WOW signal
That's a big simplification, but all you need to know is that the frequency of the hydrogen line is 1420 megahertz.
And in the 5 decades since then, we have never detected another radio signal that has looked anything like that.
Anyway, the reason why this is interesting is because astronomers have been able to reverse engineer the trajectory of 3I Atlas. That is a pretty big coincidence, and it's got some people thinking that maybe the real origin of the WOW signal wasn't some distant star, but it was,
which in the year 1977 would have been on the outer edge of our solar system, far beyond the orbit of Pluto.
Objects like this one demand that we keep an open mind to the endless possibilities of the universe. The truth is out there, and it's headed in our direction.